You can't arrive at a place where you need to learn and come with preconceived ideas of what that place should be. So already that's the start of one's downfall. So if I treat everybody in a business with respect and integrity, if I have integrity, then I would be able to survive in that environment.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kinsani and I bring you faith, education, wisdom, and lifestyle content. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I think you guys will be super excited for today's guest. If you were at our mentorship event or our Re-Envision Wholeness mentorship event, you know we have the best graduate recruitment specialist, and actually your favorite graduate recruitment specialist, Kekeletso Sebakeng. And he is originally from the Free State, Heilbron. He matriculated at Qwa Qwa Ed-U-College and attended Vaal University of Technology. He is currently a graduate recruitment specialist at one of the top 5 law firms and previously worked for an international law firm, Pinsent Masons. He was an early talent officer in his previous role and looked after a legal internship program focusing on underprivileged candidates training to be potential candidate attorneys. He also assisted first and second year candidate attorneys until admission and at career fairs and other events. Kekeletso is also part of the University of Pretoria Mentorship program and part of Sivuyile Mentorship Academy. He holds an EPSO certified Boolean Search and Social Media Certificate from Sage University's HR program, which specializes in skills development, employment equity, performance, and employee management. He is currently registered to pursue a qualification in human resource management at MANCOSA. In his spare time, Kekeletso enjoys go-karting, watching documentaries, being a project Naledi volunteer, going to food markets, and online gaming. Welcome, Keke.
That was a mouthful, but thank you.
Yes, it was a lot. It was a lot. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
We previously had you at our mentorship day, and I think everyone gained a lot of insight from you. And I thought, why not have you for the podcast? So we, with the podcast, it's ongoing mentorship, so anybody can always access the conversation that we have and learn from it. I've spoken, so I want you to share a bit about yourself and why you chose or were inspired to take the career path that you're currently in.
All right, a bit of myself, originally from the Free State, as you know. And I think what inspired the career path that I do pursue currently is the fact that I come from an unprivileged background, so it motivated me for me to actually look at where I was at and say what resources available there, and then say, okay, I'll be the vessel to be an advocate of change. So, you know, change one life at a time. You can't change the whole world.
True.
So I decided to form part of a circle that wanted to be successful in life. And that circle meant going on workshops, going on career talks, watching webinars. And then eventually I said, okay, this is the route I want to pursue, which is, you know, recruitment. When I started, it was like general recruitment. So I had different clients. And then eventually, I've always wanted to study law. But once I, you know, spoke to people that studied law, I was like, maybe not for me necessarily, but I was on the other side. You know, so I started then pursuing, obtaining clients in the legal space, and that's how I actually ended up in the legal space. So, and then I was working for EOH, it's in the ICT space, and I was an account manager there. And I had obviously previously worked with legal clients, and that's how I got into the legal space.
Interesting journey. And what is the role of a graduate recruitment specialist?
The role is just to enable, you know, early talent, which is young talent, any person that is a graduate, basically stepping into the legal space. You know, for me particularly, my niche is legal, but obviously graduate recruitment as a whole, it could be any sector or any industry, but I specialize in the legal space currently. So the role of it is to attend, you know, career fairs. There's, you know, various initiatives that we get involved in. And also there's the development piece and the mentoring piece where you go out to attract talent, and then once the talent is in-house, then you manage that talent. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what a graduate recruitment specialist does.
Yeah, so you do, so you have a very difficult job. I mean, in the sense that you get to see candidates and potential candidates, right? I think it's kind of difficult because you don't know if what people actually say they actually that, right? And what they say on paper is actually what they will actually bring into the workplace. I wanted to find out what are the 5 qualities or skills you normally look for in a candidate.
I think for me personally, is just looking at someone who's willing to learn. I think that's an underrated skill,
Interesting.
because you can't arrive at a place where you need to learn and come with preconceived ideas of what that place should be. So already that's the start of one's downfall. And then the second to that would be integrity and respect. So those two align. So if I treat everybody in a business with respect and integrity, if I have integrity, then I would be able to survive in that environment. And then the other one is resilience, because not everyone comes from the same backgrounds, but resilience will definitely enable you to survive in a very fast-paced environment. If you work for a big firm, you'll know that there's long hours, there's a lot of matters that you have to get involved in. So you have to have that resilience. There's a lot of constructive feedback that one gets. So, that grit and resilience is very imperative. And the other one, I would say also, just being honest. Being an honest person is very important, which is tied to what I just said earlier. But if you're honest, we work in a very tricky, space, and being fit and proper is one of the things that one should be. So if you're an honest person, and whether it doesn't matter how the hierarchy of the person that gives you tasks, if that is unethical, definitely you need to be a person who stands for what's right. Yeah. And then lastly, I would say someone that has a why. If you don't have a why, it becomes difficult in terms of longevity. Yeah, so having a why is very important.
So I think those are amazing. Actually, I'm thinking of at my previous job, one of my bosses used to say that, Kensani, if I get a person with a bad attitude,
Yeah.
and somebody who's unskilled but willing to learn, I'd go for the person who's unskilled and willing to learn than somebody with a bad attitude but unwilling to learn, because those people you can't move past them, right? In
Yeah.
terms of training them. And I think the integrity one is also important. We've seen what other attorneys have been doing lately.
Yep.
So you don't want your firm to be linked to any scandals about appropriation of trust monies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Resilience. This career requires resilience. If we look at the people at the top, right, they have gone through the most.
Yeah.
So I think these are very profound characteristics or qualities that you look for. And I'm so glad that none of them are actually related to academia.
Well, I mean, academia is still important, right? So what
Yeah.
that determines is the effort that you put in your degree. And some people come from different backgrounds, as I said. So someone could obtain a 65, for instance, and they are part of societies, they work in part-time, or so that person is unable to actually reach their full potential, looking at that. And some people don't have those responsibilities and would expect that person to achieve higher marks because you have less activities or less noise than the next person who does. So for me, I'd say if one meets the minimum requirements in terms of marks, absolutely, right? But the most important, things that you require to survive in a corporate space would be the softer skills are equally important than the technical skills, because your softer skills determine your longevity in that space. Because like you could be smart, but if you're unable to work with people, how far are you going to get, right? So A lot of people could start at the same time, but they won't end up where they should because of softer skills. You know, if they lack EQ, it's a problem. You know, so EQ and IQ are equally important.
At the same time, I think that marks are sometimes a reflection of, they could potentially reflect resilience.
Yes.
They can reflect integrity and discipline and some of these characteristics,
Yeah.
right? Because if you look at somebody who was more privileged and somebody who was less privileged but able to achieve certain marks, then you can see their why.
Yes.
Right, you can see their resilience, you can see they drive, those type of things, just by reading through they marks, to see that
Yeah.
if you could do it with this kind of background and this limited resources, I think you could go the extra mile for in your work, and you have a greater why, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, yeah.
It actually reminds me of an intern that I used to work with about 2 years ago at Pinsent Masons. So she used to study and work at Pick and Pay, for instance, and that's something that stood out, right? So this person didn't have like, societies or, but what stood out was the fact that you worked at Pick and Pay and you still completed your degree with all of the noise that was happening.
Sure.
And, I looked at her, and now she is a candidate attorney. So she started in the legal internship program, then she's retained now to be an associate,
Wow, amazing. That's
which
brilliant.
is amazing to see, right? So, yeah.
Amazing. That's a beautiful, beautiful life story. I'm thinking, and since we're on this lane, we should just stick to it. With the amount of applications you do receive, do you believe opportunities to work at top law firms favor those that come from prestigious universities?
Absolutely not. And I think people like myself, when I go to any organization, I always go there with an open mind. And, this year we've went to about 11 universities. So 11 universities is a lot. And top talent can come out of any university. So we try to be as less biased as possible, because obviously the prestige universities have good standing in terms of law faculties. They have really good resources, and they are invested by a lot of organizations. So it doesn't really, it's not a reflection of the candidates that pull through, right? So someone could go to a particular university that is deemed prestige, and then there's someone can go into an outskirt university, and you give them the same material, and then the other one can achieve more than the other. So my outlook is that it's not necessarily a determining factor. Some universities are better than others. I mean, that is a given fact, but it's about the person at the end of the day. Someone could go to a prestige university and not achieve great marks.
True.
So, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I think this is always an issue, or actually not an issue, or concern, amongst circles when you have conversations.
Yeah.
That obviously, if you studied at this university, you were more likely to be exposed to this kind of opportunities, and we know what a lack of opportunity does within the legal industry. You end up having to work at a law firm somewhere, ekaya, in Bushbuckridge, for example, and you earning 2,000. This is after studying for 4 years, and you're training, and sometimes you don't get paid. There's stories like that, So it would be great to see some form of openness to allowing not just certain candidates from certain universities getting those opportunities, but allowing everyone who is deserving or deemed to be deserving, because nobody's actually deserving, but deemed to be deserving to get those opportunities. And so one of my questions is, what initiatives or programs have you undertaken or have you been involved in, or that, even if they're personal, to sort of bridge the gap between this divide?
Yeah, I think one that's close to my heart is mentorship, right? So I have a formal, program that I'm part of for 2 years now at the University of Pretoria. So that is something close to my heart. And then there is people that reach out to me independently on LinkedIn and say, listen, I want, to be mentored. This is where I want to go. And that's what I do. I think in a year, I take about 12 people,
Wow.
which is a lot.
Yeah, that's a
And
lot.
people ask me, when do you get the time? So every month I'll ensure that I meet the group of people. So like I'll know, okay, within this week I'm gonna meet 5 people. Within the following week I'll meet another 5 people. So I slot them in my busy schedule.
Sure.
And in that mentorship program, for me particularly, is that the ones that are coming out at an independent level, then I'll ask them, what do they want to achieve? What are their areas of development? And then there is synergy also with mentorship, right? So I can't necessarily mentor each and every person. And you look at those attributes, or is this person willing to learn? Are they willing to take constructive criticism? And those people normally flourish. I think for the past 2 years since I've been doing mentorship, most of my mentees I actually secured articles, which is great. Some are still in the process of securing articles, but it's humbling to see that extra notch of someone who has the knowledge to give you access to the information. I may not know some of the information, but someone on my contact list can be called to enable you. So one is mentorship. And the other is, there's certain initiatives that we go to high schools and you have talks. So I've done that. I haven't done that in a minute, but last year I did one initiative like that. And also just webinars, like, the SMA mentorship program. I hosted something at the Indaba Hotel where we did mock interviews, and they had like questions, how can I better my application? And so that was a very nice and informative session, and because they get to see, and when you do mock interviews, you get to see how people actually reply, and you're like, well, maybe you shouldn't say that in an interview, So you get to see those type of things going on. So these are the few initiatives that I, get involved in my personal capacity, and also my role enables me to be part of a lot of initiatives. So, which is I'm grateful for.
Out of interest, do you have a selection criteria for your mentors, for your mentees?
Mentees, yeah. It's not a very long list. It's just looking at someone's story and deciphering from there if this person is really willing, or are they making excuses for where they are, right? So that's very important, because I have a mentor now. I think I've had my mentor since 2018, and my mentorship with my mentor is that it started from work. He saw my drive. He saw, okay, this kid is working, and I was working more than what I was paid for, right? So I derived those attributes from him, and that's what I look for when I look for mentees also, right? So, and my mentee is an executive in the ICT space, for instance.
Sure.
But he's able to still guide me and say, well, don't take that opportunity, or okay, look at this opportunity, and and it's grown. That mentorship has grown so great that it's like a friendship. It's like a family now. Spiritually we're aligned.
Sure.
We believe in the same belief systems.
Great.
I know his family, his kids, so it's really helpful. And he's one of the people that helped me to actually make better decisions.
Nice.
When in my younger self I was making wrong decisions, he's able to say, hold on, why are you going on these trips? And it's weird, right? Like someone is telling you, like, why are you going on this trip? Is your child going to inherit these pictures?
Sure.
And that's what inspired me to actually start obtaining assets, buying house, buying, investing and doing certain things. So that came out of a mentorship, which started off just trying to better myself in terms of my career, but then it filtered into so many things.
So I've actually only recently decided to get a mentor.
Yeah.
I've approached her and I was like, okay, so I'm new in this space because I was in practice. Now I'm not practicing anymore. And I'm like, I need to know how to get here. And I don't know how to get here. So it's fascinating for me to hear you speak about your relationship with your mentor, because I am at foundation stage.
Yeah.
I am building, so it's still so, you have kids. We're still trying to build that relationship. So it's interesting for me to see that mentorship could grow into something bigger than just guidance.
Yeah.
It could become a friendship. It could become a sort of life, a relationship, basically.
Yeah.
Although mentorship is a relationship, but a much broader relationship that then permeates into your personal life as well. I wanted to also, one of the questions that I have is, in a CV, what do you think, what soft skills do you think make one stand out?
I think a lot of people, the one mistake that people do is just list their accolades without actually putting who they are, right? Like for in an intro, someone could just tell you of the accolades. I studied this undergrad degree, went to this university, I achieved this, I was part of the dean list. Yes, we get that, but who are you, right? So there's not an essence of a person in a CV in some instances. So what will make someone stand out is being bold about what your values are, what you stand for, where you're from, are you proud of where you're from, where you want to go. So that could, that could be shown in your introduction, for instance, or in your cover letter could be shown. So that's what will make someone stand out, just expressing as to who they are, accompanied by obviously their accolades and what they're doing currently and why that company that they're applying as. And I think the why is very important. It'll always come back to the why, right? So if the why is you're applying to a big firm and you're saying, I'm applying to this big firm because you guys win awards. Oh, that's great. That's what all the top big 5 law firms do. And you're applying there because it's a big 5. Okay, that's great. That's what everybody says, right? But if you're saying it's a top 5 law firm, but I have interest in employment law, I've seen your partner, doing amazing things in the employment space. I've read an article. Now that's different, right? And it's more personalized and it's more intimate. A lot of people send applications that's very surface level, and that's what doesn't make someone stand out. But if something is personal, it tells me that person did their research. And it's not like surface level research where they went to the website and then they're repeating what they read from the website. So it's more of, I see myself in that space because of X, Y, Z.
I think we often forget as candidates, and I'm going to say myself because
Yeah.
I have a CV somewhere.
We all have CVs.
I think we often forget the person is important.
Yeah.
The qualifications, yes.
Yeah.
The person is important.
Yeah.
Because people work with the person. They don't
Yes.
work with your qualifications. They don't work with where you studied. They
Yeah.
work with Keke. How's
Yeah.
your attitude? What are your values?
Yeah.
And that type of stuff. So I think that's also great advice. And what do you think is the common mistake that graduates make when applying for work at top law firms?
I think it's just lack of effort because, listen, I respect that the fact that there is a huge issue of unemployment, of, youth unemployment. And desperation comes when they do what I call mass applications. They have one cover letter, one CV, and then they just apply everywhere, right? And that is not really personalized, and in the other mistake is when you do that, you're bound to make a mistake where you have a particular name of a law firm that you applied and you forgot to remove it. Now you send the very same cover letter to another firm that is not that firm. And already that's a turn off in terms of like, okay, attention to details out of the window with this person and lack of effort. And like if there's no lack of effort, every firm wants to hire someone that they're going to flourish and climb through the ranks of that particular firm. No one wants to employ someone who's blatantly saying, I'm going to use you guys as a stepping stone piece, So it's just having that, that mistake that they do is just making sure that, and Googling also like best cover letter or using ChatGPT and say best cover letter. And then copying and pasting that into an application. Or they get they get screening questions, they go ask ChatGPT how to best answer this question. And then they copy and paste that. So if something is, there's nothing wrong with using ChatGPT to a certain degree if it sort of enlightens you, right? But then it's impersonal. Something that's impersonal you can tell when you're reading through it. So something that's more personal, it's like saying, I went to this event, I see you guys are posting on social media about this particular initiatives that you're doing. I like that, I like what the firm is doing with their pro bono department. I saw you had this initiative, like that's more personal, but a lot of people are becoming impersonal because of desperation. It's just like, let me just send my application and hope and close my eyes and hope
somebody's going to
a
pick
Keke
me.
will reply to me. Yeah.
Okay, so what I get is that there's a lack of effort and mass applications.
Yeah.
So pay attention to detail. Sort of tailor make your CV for the specific post and the specific law firm that you're applying to. Because if it's a standard CV, then you can't even tailor make it to your interest, right? You can
Yeah.
apply to an intellectual property company, but your CV still states, I'm interested in mining, right?
Yeah.
And then that gets there, and it's just like, but
There's a
are you
disconnect.
yeah, but we are just specializing,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
specialize in intellectual property, or we specialize in environmental law. So how do you think this fits in? So I think that is amazing advice, to just tailor make your CV.
Yeah.
So sort of know which CV you're sending where, and cover letters as well, double check, triple check. And then at the top, while you're still drafting your cover letter, if you've already sent it before, just double for example, this is an example,
Yeah.
you've sent it to ENS.
Yeah.
Just search for ENS again to see,
Yes.
if you didn't now send it to WW, for example.
Yeah.
For those type of things. And that happens a lot, because we
Yeah,
work
no, it
with
does.
standard templates, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's going to ask me, Kensani, can I see your cover letter? And maybe you're like, oh, this is an example.
Yeah.
Then somebody uses exactly that.
Yes. That happens
And you're
quite
just
a
like,
bit.
yeah, Kensani was applying to Pinsent Masons. So
Yeah.
now you've referenced Pinsent Masons there. You are applying to Weber's, for example.
Yeah.
And it's just a complete mess. Or now you say that I'm a postgraduate student. You were
That's
never,
how you-
because that was my
Yeah.
that was my cover letter,
Yeah.
right? What I think this is an important question for me personally is, what other opportunities are available for graduates within a law firm apart from articles, apart from being a CA?
Yeah. So there is, for my limited, I'm not a technical expert in this. I know that there's legal tech, which is a big thing now. There's the legal tech, there's the general counsel, there's becoming a knowledge lawyer.
Okay.
There's not knowledge lawyers. There's alternative legal services that's out there, within a law firm. And then there is obviously multiple, an LLB has multiple opportunities. People limited to practice, and there is so many opportunities within corporate. You could go the advocacy route. You could go. There's so many opportunities, and I think student needs to start researching what those channels look like. And sometimes some people are not compatible for practice.
True.
And that's another thing that no one wants to speak about, right? But you're not necessarily compatible with the law firm. Maybe you're compatible more with corporate. You might be good with compliance. You might be good with legal advisory. You might be good in a different space. So find out what you are capable of doing, then find your niche.
So good. Let's say I'm an average student. I'm not. What do you think would make me stand out if my results are not exceptional?
I guess it's doing those extracurricular activities, right? Being part of societies, being part of the law clinic, just doing initiative, like enriching yourself outside of your LLB degree, and making sure that you understand the link between what you're studying in theory versus applying that in practice. And also just reading up and what's happening and how does, because big firms support a lot of big clients. So if you're reading, you get to actually start linking things together, right? Oh, this firm is part of this matter. What does that matter about? You read about that. And should you get an opportunity to be invited for an interview there, you have something to talk about with those partners. True. And let that not be surface level also, because they might ask a follow-up question, right? True. And if you didn't read up on that particular matter, then you'll be caught out, which is not going to look great. So it's always good to, just, enrich yourself, be knowledgeable. Don't be so stuck on what you're learning at that particular time, because, knowledge is forever evolving. You can never be stagnant. So there's always something new to actually learn. So, yeah.
Just before we close, we are about to close. You've shared so much. You've provided so much insight for everyone, and I hope they've taken notes, actually written down notes, because this is that good. I just want to know, or we just would like to know more about you. So I'm gonna get into some personal questions, things like, what does a better South Africa look like for you? What would you like to see in our nation?
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot I'd like to see, but not to be controversial. I think it's just people just doing their part. Like being an individual,
so
you have
good.
to
Sure.
do your part. Like me, I believe that I'm doing my part in my space.
That's such a good one.
So you just have to do your part. That's why we'll have a better South Africa. But then, unfortunately, we have people with greedy hands, which just becomes very difficult for opportunities to arrive. And I believe I'm a person that wants to create opportunities, right? Because there's always opportunities, also is knowing how to find opportunities. So that's what I'd like to see.
That's
Yeah.
such a good one, and has so much depth. If we were to get into
Unpack it, yeah.
I don't think we'd actually finish.
Yeah.
But it's so good because doing your part it's almost looking at I'm looking at a home, right? Everybody has a role.
Yeah.
The children are children.
Yeah.
They must do what children do.
Yeah.
The parents are parents. They must do what parents do.
Yeah.
If somebody is not faithful at what they do, they
Affects.
set back everyone.
Absolutely.
So I think it's such anyway, it's such an emotional one for me because I'm always thinking about how can we make things better, but it's actually about somebody who's meant to, if you're meant to give the students money for their NSFAS, do it.
Yeah.
If you're meant to build a road when you get a tender, do it.
Yeah.
If you're meant to be a nurse and you're meant to assist older people there, do not be rude about it. Do it, just do your part. And that's what I think makes life much more easier for everyone when we actively take position for what we are supposed to do, what we are called to do, and what we're here for.
Yeah.
And then, which book have you read that has had a positive impact in your life?
There's a book called The 1 Minute Manager. I can't remember the author, but it really inspired my management style.
Okay.
Right. So
1 minute?
1 Minute Manager.
Manager.
It's called It's a very small book. And I got that book from an exec at UH when I was working there. And after I read that book, I was like, this is amazing. I want to be a manager that I wish I want to have. So when you're working in an environment, you want to be a manager that enables people. And there is people that hog, positions. I'm the opposite of that. So I want to enable. If I'll pass through a certain space and someone wants to go through that space, I'm going to show you this is how this space operates. So I want to be the opposite of what I've been exposed to. Like, micromanagement is something that I hate with a passion. So it's something that I'll never, put someone through. That's the last book that I read. But I did get a book from C's where I still need to read that book. At some point when I get time. Yeah.
All right. This has been amazing, short and sweet, I hope. Keke, thank you for joining us. And I hope everybody else at home will see how valuable this is. And for free, very valuable. Thank you for joining us. I think you do amazing work in just imparting your wisdom and your time. It's a lot of time that you spend, and I think that is time outside of work in imparting into young people. So thank you for that. Thank you for all the work that you do. We see you. Thank you. That brings us to the end of our episode. Guys, please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Follow Keke, engage with him on LinkedIn, be professional, and